Welcome to another Tableau tutorial video. I'm really excited about today's topic. This was submitted by a viewer, Ismail Shahid. I apologize, I probably mispronounced your name. Here's the information that he has. He has a dashboard, and these represent different risks. There's two risks here with impact of 1 through 6 and the probability. And he wants to be able to click on this item and have this dashboard filter out the associated risks, the two risks here and this sheet down here. Sounds fairly simple, right? So what we would do is let's take a look at sheet 1, and we've got the probability and the impact. We don't have the risk number. If we had the risk, that would be the easiest thing to filter on. So let's bring risk over to details just to see what happens. And you can see that all these numbers now go to 1. So that's not going to work. So the first thing I did was I came under the dashboard 1. I'm going to go to a dashboard action. You probably are thinking the same thing. We're going to add a filter action. Going to dashboard 1, sheet 1, and we want the target to be dashboard 2, sheet 2 and 3 on select, show all the values. And instead of selecting all the values, we're actually only going to pick 2. We're just going to pick the probability, and then we're going to pick the impact. Click OK, set it up. Now when you click here, that works great. It has just the two items, the two risks associated with that. The problem is on sheet 3, where did all the actions go? That just has null. So first things, that's how you create a drill down. You just filter on selected items and move it to another table. Let's look at the data source. Here's the issue we're running into. We were filtering on just the probability and the impact. The problem is that these other actions don't have an associated probability and impact. So how are we going to link those two together? This is where I created a bunch of other dummy sheets to walk through this. You'll notice here we have risk impact and risk probability. These are items that I created previously. And we're using a fixed function. There was only one of the items for a particular risk had a probability. And we'll do it right here. Only one of this risk 1 had a probability. So this is saying, okay, forget about all the filters, just look at, for each risk, find the highest probability. Well, that works because everything else is null. And we're going to do something very similar for the risk impact. Once again, we're looking for risk. We're going to keep that fixed. And we're only going to be looking across all of the risk items for the maximum impact. Here's what our dashboard 1 looks like, and our dashboard 2. Actually, I jumped ahead. So I did one other thing here. You can see that it's a risk impact. I'll show you here. Let me get rid of these. So if we bring risk impact over, it automatically does the sum, right? So we say, okay, we'll just change this to average because that value should be what we need to do. So let me create another value here. We're going to put the risk, action, and now we're going to put the probability, risk probability, and do the impact and the risk impact. We're going to change these to discrete so you can actually see what they are. All right, so now what you're seeing here is previously you had high 2, high, now you have high and 2 for all of them. So my initial thought was, let's just change this to average because they're all going to be the same value, right? So come in here, change the measure to average. Doesn't look quite the same. I don't like this, the decimals here on the chart that Ismail did previously. What he did is he just changed it to dimension. All right, so now you have the same look and feel of using it as a dimension. All right, so we've got all of these are now, there's multiple items here because multiple of each risk, instead of just one being the number 2, the value 2, there's now 4 of them. So we've quadrupled. So the way you get around that is we're going to come here and we're going to put the actions filter. We're just going to look for those items where the action is null. All right, so we just want one instance. Now we're going to come to sheet 2, just building the same table with the risk, team, risk probability. It has to be this risk probability because that'll be consistent across the 3 sheets. And once again, when you bring in the risk impact, you're going to change that to dimension. And in theory, we could even actually move it to dimension here, convert to dimension. And so then the third item here is risk, actions, and the team. These are the 2 dashboards. You will notice when we got rid of the null that it cleaned up this sheet 2 a little. If you look at the previous dashboard, it's showing for everything for risk 1, it's showing the null, but it's also showing the high and impact. And that's because all the actions have null values. So it's showing, so for each risk, you have a null value and a very high, or impact and probability. Now when we come to dashboard, we're going to set the action, just like we were doing before. We want to set this down to sheet 4, show all the values. And now when we come to selected values, we can change this to risk impact, and we can change this to risk probability. And you can change those names to whatever you want. Makes more sense. Oops, I got it still in menu. It's something I always have a problem with. And now when you select on a risk, a combination, you are going to get all the items that have the risk impact of 2 and a risk hybrid probability of high. And now you've limited up here to just the R1 and R5. You're getting to see all the action items here. You see the null action here. To get rid of that, we're just going to impose a filter on actions. And this is something kind of cool. We're going to use exclude and null. So no matter what gets filtered, it's always going to get rid of the null. So if you had actions 54, 55, 56, it'll still show up. The problem doing it the other way is if you were to ever add more actions, you would have to come back into the filter and add those in. So we'll just go exclude. A lot of cool tips on this version, on this little exercise. So thank you, Ismail. This has been great. We can come up here. We unselected all of them, so all the items should be showing up, and they do, and you can scroll down here. So once again, now you've got just the risks you wanted and the associated actions. So thanks again. Keep watching, and please subscribe.